Hey, everybody, welcome to the MGF Podcast. This is episode 32 of the show with a temporary name where we talk movies, shows, games, Lego, and whatever else. Joining me, as always, is Tate.
What is up, everybody? It's been a couple weeks, but we have really great stuff. So,
We do. And some
yes,
really bad stuff toward the end.
horrible
Um,
stuff. This is going to be a
yeah.
roller coaster ride.
Yeah, but I mean, thankfully for most of the show today, we've got some very exciting things to talk about. Obviously, now having taken a couple weeks off because of life throwing curveballs every weekend, um, we've got the launch of Disney Plus, the first two episodes of The Mandalorian. We've got Jedi Fallen Order, Death Stranding, and just a lot to cover before we get to any of that nasty YouTube apocalyptic stuff later on in the show.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, no. So, well, let's just jump right into it. Let's just jump into it. So let's
all
start
right,
off.
Phil DeFranco, I see you.
Let's just start off with some Death Stranding. So Ross has not played yet.
I've not.
I have.
I've missed out on. I guess I can say every single one of Kojima's games, and so I really have no investment in Death Stranding, or I still have no idea what it even is. I just know Norman Reedus is in it, and the graphics are pretty stunning. About it.
Let me tell you, dude. Death Stranding is the kind of game that you just need to sit down and you need to just sit down and play and realize that gaming as a genre is more than just flashy colors on a screen. Right? It is a subversive, intense experience. I haven't even finished the game yet. I don't even feel like I'm close to being done. Dude, it's a Kojima game. The story and the lore is ridiculous.
Pretty long game too, huh?
Extremely long, extremely drawn out. It's an at your own pace kind of situation. It's a difficult game. It's a Kojima game. And when I say it's a Kojima game, I mean the world is introduced to you in a very, very unique and subversive way. Nothing is expected, but nothing is not expected. It is a crazy, weird concept that I don't want to get into because I just want to praise the game and
I mean,
say,
I certainly wasn't expecting like my first bit of gameplay that I'd ever see from the game was just Norman Reedus peeing with like a backpack on.
yeah, that's a very small part of the game, I will say. But anyway, this is the kind of game that you need to just play if you like story, if you like lore, if you like being fascinated. I don't think the game is a masterpiece. I don't think the game is horrible. The game for me is an 8 out of 10. It is the most important game made this year. It is in the same vein as Joker. And when I say that, I mean it's a video game that nobody else would have made and that needed to be made to change the genre, to make a change, a shift. But I've already noticed a week and a half after launch, people are already forgetting about this game. So,
Seriously?
same thing. Like
Crazy.
at least RDR had 2-3 weeks before people stopped talking about it. It just shows gaming nowadays, dude. People
It
care about.
makes me sad, man, when devs work on incredible games like these for upwards of 4 to 8 years, and then people just drop right the hell off as soon as they're done. It's like everybody who wants to play comes in and plays, and then that's it. Conversation over. I mean,
Exactly.
Spider-Man PS4 I think lasted about a month at least before that happened,
Right.
and then
I will
but
say
yeah, man,
though.
I'm concerned that the same might happen for The Last of Us 2 next year.
Oh, the same is 100% going to happen.
That's gonna make me really sad because like people were talking about The Last of Us for 6 months after. I remember. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
Well, that was 6 years ago when people actually cared about story-based, narrative-driven games,
Right.
right? And if people cared about that, then they would put on their big boy pants and play Death Stranding, right? So
Mm.
the game Death Stranding is a game for pretentious people. I'm going to be honest with you, Ross. It's a game for pretentious people like me who love film, who love narrative, who love big, expansive, confusing worlds.
It certainly looks a little self-congratulatory as far as
Oh,
how
yeah.
it's
Oh,
laid
yeah.
out.
It is extremely self indulgent as well. It loves itself, but at the same time, how can you blame it? See,
Mm.
Kojima has an ego for a reason. And I would say I mean, honestly, as a human being, no ego is well earned. I will say that. But, Kojima really did something special here. And it is something worth checking out. Do I recommend buying it? I do. Do I recommend buying it if you're into normal, kind of average AAA games? Absolutely not. This is a $60 indie game that is 100 hours long, if that makes sense. It's the style of indie game where it doesn't take anything from any other game. It just has its own identity. It is self-contained. It is extremely huge and expansive. It's a great game. It's great. It's not a masterpiece. It's not the worst game ever made. It's just really, really wonderful. It's a great experience.
And to gauge how long the experience is, how long, like, what's the ETA on it? Do you know?
50 to 100 hours.
Oh my god.
That is a big difference. Let me tell you though, Ross, you don't get your first gun until about 15 hours into the game. Before that, you have these little. That's not really a spoiler. I'm not. I was about to say it's a spoiler, but yeah, you don't get a gun to fight off human enemies until about 15 hours into the game.
Jeez,
you are.
Sounds.
It's not an action game, Ross. It has its own genre.
We need to establish like a new like there needs to be a new genre established for games like this or RDR. Just games that just get you so invested into the world for not just a week of a playthrough, but upwards of a month.
Right. So the difference I would say though between RDR and Death Stranding is the way I played RDR is the way Death Stranding is meant to be played, if that makes sense. It's like, I've expressed to you that I just kind of roamed around RDR and did small mundane tasks.
Right.
That's essentially what this is, right? RDR is an amazing feat of gaming because it gives you choices, right? You can play the game as a linear action game, or you can play it as an experience. This game is an experience.
I gotta close the door.
Sure.
1 second. All right, we're good. We're good. I survived. The door has been closed. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, anyway, Kojima, come on the podcast. We'll get a translator. It'll be a gale time. Dude, oh my gosh. Ross, I really want to start up my gaming live stream again, and I just want to play all the Metal Gear Solid games in order. That would be so fun.
Dude, lots of boxes to crawl under.
Okay, dude, Metal Gear is a crack fest. Death Stranding's a self-contained crack fest, so it's like easy to get through comparatively. But dude, oh my god, if I were to explain Metal Gear lore, I'd have to pull up a timeline and have a 3-hour podcast just to explain. I mean, it's nuts. But anyway, moving on to something we can both talk about. Let's talk about Fallen Order for a bit. So we're going to start with no spoilers. We're not going to say anything incriminating. We're just going to talk about the general gameplay, the gameplay design. And then in spoilers, we're going to talk about more of the issues, I would say, because the issues are a little spoilerific. So.
Yeah. I just want to dial the clock back just a second to remember E3 2018 when Jedi Fallen Order was first announced. And it was just like on a Star Wars show live stream where the guy from Respawn just walks up and they're like, "What are you working on?" He's like, "A game. It's going to be called Jedi Fallen Order. It's going to be after Revenge of the Sith. It's going to be great." It was so weird. And then, yeah, man, here we are a year and a half later, following the story of Cal Kestis, 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. And
but guys, spoiler alert, let's just say this. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
We actually got a good Star Wars game.
It's a fantastic game. It really is. I had a rough first couple of play sessions, but once I got into the groove of it and really settled in to how the game is laid out, I know I've been having one hell of a time. It is a thoroughly compelling experience. I mean, every moment that you're playing, even if you are getting lost on some of the planets, it is still, I think, exactly what people are looking for in a Star Wars single-player experience. And going into Jedi Fallen Order today, I was always kind of thinking like, all right, people are saying it's long. Okay, what does long actually mean for them? I mean, is it going to be? Does long just mean like the standard 8 hours? Or, no, dude. I mean, I've been playing a long freaking time, and it's a long game.
Ross, we have such different expectations on video game length. You guys, for reference, Ross plays FPS games. I play JRPGs. When I think of a long game, I'm thinking like 60 to 100 hours, for reference. And
most people don't.
No, right. No, I know. I'm very
outlier experiences compared to a AAA, Star Wars blockbuster.
Of course, yeah. No, I'm not gonna say that I'm the average one here, but yeah, no. I mean, I love. Okay, I consider games like Fallen Order concise games. And like 20 hours to me is the perfect amount of time to play a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and yeah, no. I mean, Fallen Order is what a Star Wars game should be, I think, if I'm being honest. With a little...
narratively, absolutely not. Gameplay-wise, 100%. I mean, I don't think there isn't anything in Jedi Fallen Order that you can't do as a Jedi, as Cal Kestis.
It feels satisfying.
I mean, it is the ultimate Jedi experience. Now, I mean... I'll be honest with you, Tate. Part of me, it's hard because part of me loves, like, part of the fun of being a Jedi is not being alone for most of it, but being able to lead others behind you, on the front lines, because the Jedi are just these symbols of leadership to the galaxy, and they're always leading in the front and using their gifts with the Force to win the day. And you don't get a lot of that in Jedi Fallen Order. For quite a bit of it, Cal is usually pretty much alone. But obviously that's also because of the time period. I mean, Revenge of the Sith, post Revenge of the Sith, I mean, he's one of the only surviving Jedi, obviously. He's only meeting up with pockets of rebels. And so obviously you're not going to have like armies of clones behind you, but it is definitely I mean, when it is for sure a single player experience.
Yeah. It's. I just want to talk about the gameplay because I really want to praise it. Like as Ross said, the narrative is leaves something to be desired.
But I was worried that the story wouldn't be great, man, and yeah.
Unfortunately, but guys, in terms of an adventure platformer, a modern adventure platformer, it's great. I love the level design. I love the parkour. I love the traversal. I mean, Ross, I'm very used to this style of game, and I think that they do it very, very well here. Everything feels dynamic. Things move in the world. It's really, really fun to traverse. And the combat is excellent. The combat
the combat alone is just like that kind of like once in a gaming generation achievement that only happens like the first time once, if that makes sense. So like Spider-Man PS4, just the webbing and just being Spider-Man and swinging throughout the city and being able to do all of his different abilities was a huge achievement. I feel like Jedi Fallen Order kind of has achieved something similar here in making such a functional single player game around a Jedi and all of his Force abilities and making them feel so seamlessly integrated into the world.
So
each one of the worlds you visit.
Yes, absolutely. Now I wanna say that Spider-Man PS4 is the first game where you really feel like Spider-Man, and I know that's the IGN meme that everybody makes fun of. No, but the web slinging has weight. Whenever you perform a special or use a gadget, you really feel like Spider-Man, dude. You have weight to your movements. It's excellent.
Right.
Fallen Order is the first time, I think, ever, better than Force Unleashed, because Force Unleashed, was a victim of its time. This is the first time you really feel like a Jedi, right? Mm-hmm. Your movement has weight to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's
a little... I do wish that it was a little smoother. I mean, I know I dug through the settings at least once, looking to see if there were any sensitivity settings to change around, but ultimately, I mean, it's a little bit... I'm about, I think, over 2/3 of the way through the game now. I think I'll be finishing it tonight and finally finding out, how the story concludes. Um, but I mean, dude, even being really far into the game, I still find it to be a little clunky.
Yeah.
Um, even though I'm used to it now, and but yeah, man, I mean, the worlds are incredible. For anybody who hasn't seen the trailers, we won't really talk about the familiar ones that you visit, but oh man, I mean, there is the game is just stunning as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I think they built Jedi Fallen Order with the Unreal Engine. They decided,
It was Unreal,
um,
not Frostbite.
right? They opted for Unreal instead of Frostbite, and um, obviously for all of the right reasons. I mean, Frostbite may work for a game like Battlefront 2, but I imagine is far too taxing for something like this.
I will say, the game's worlds are pretty. I really like it, but
They're stunning.
dude, imagine like the RDR. What is it? The World Engine. What
Yeah.
is the RDR one called? Oh my
Oh,
god.
I forgot.
Oh my god. If the RDR engine was used for this, it'd be incredible. There are some flaws with the engine. Like, okay, for example, Battlefront 2 is a prettier game, right?
Sure.
But this game, I mean, the world, the level design, I really like it, dude. I really, really like it.
Yeah, Battlefront 2 is better because it's more crisp. I mean, the character models are more real and lifelike looking. The shading is a lot better. The textures are higher res. But I mean, none of that mattered. And I knew that going in. Like if the gameplay was good enough, you're not paying attention to how weird Cal's face can look at
Right.
times.
No, dude, 100%. I mean, I'm not even paying attention to the story because the
Yeah,
gameplay's so good.
and considering everyone you fight and pretty much are all wearing helmets, it doesn't matter. It's never distracting.
I agree.
Which I really appreciate. And there's only so much we can say without getting into spoilers very quickly. But what I do want to talk about is definitely the narrative, because even though the game completely and thoroughly exceeds expectations as far as gameplay goes, combat, lightsaber combat, force abilities, the planets, even though a little tough, unnecessarily tough to navigate, in my opinion, are incredible and just gorgeous to look at. I mean, some of the skyboxes in Jedi Fallen Order are just to die for.
Yes.
And I mean, all the force abilities being so seamlessly integrated with how you interact with every all various parts of each location. I mean, Jedi Fallen Order really captures each location and exactly what it would look like a few years after Revenge of the Sith, when the Empire has really started to sink its teeth into all the backwater worlds of the galaxy. Regardless of wherever you are, the Empire is present, and they are digging something up. They are mining. They are doing something to oppress everywhere you go, and you just really feel fully invested in each location, which is great. But man, the story, there's barely a story, Tate. There's barely a story, man. Now, I want to start with the positives. Cal Kestis is pretty fantastic. Cal Kestis is like everything that I was hoping Ezra's character would eventually develop into in Star Wars Rebels, and he sort of did toward the end of the series. But Cal Kestis is already there, because we were talking before the show, Kate and I, and it was like Cal Kestis is like Ahsoka, the male version of Ahsoka, in the sense that he clearly, at a very young age, like 12 to 14, excelled with his Jedi training and got to the point where he was pretty much a functioning Jedi Knight who was just too young to be knighted, right? I mean, um, he was just always a really great Jedi, and even though it's been 5 years since Revenge of the Sith, he kind of over the course of the game settles back into um, everything that he was capable of as the Clone Wars came to an end and the Empire took hold. Um, but man, while Cal is great and fantastic for the most part, dude, the supporting cast,
Except for
the character Sarah, the second sister, uh, the little goblin guy with the beard who flies the ship.
Ross,
the mantis.
I'm gonna switch to the spoiler section because I feel like we're getting a little bit tight.
I'm just naming characters, dude.
Right, yeah.
I'm literally just naming characters. These are characters on the poster. I mean, I'm
right.
not...
Okay.
If we can't even talk about characters on an IMDb, I mean, like, these are publicly listed. One Google search and you see who's playing who.
Right. Okay. Right.
These are characters on the poster. You know, it's just, while Cal, and I'll be honest, man, even though they developed Cal a lot throughout the game, even he kind of lacks step in a lot of ways. He's great and fun, and but man, the supporting characters and the supporting storylines that don't really matter to the overarching main narrative is really tough. That's where the game, for me, so far, being most of the way through, has really fallen short. It's those three areas. It's the supporting characters being really weak, and the worlds being a little too unnecessarily hard to traverse. But otherwise, it's been one hell of a ride, man. I've been really enjoying it, and it is by far. I think I love Battlefront 2 so much, man, that it's hard for me to just straight up hand the mantle of greatest Star Wars game of all time right over to Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah,
I would happily say that it's the second.
This is my preferred, just because this is more in line with the kind of games I like. So
yeah,
I mean, I distinctly enjoy this game. It is everything that makes Sekiro and Dark Souls great in terms of the combat and the grittiness there. It's everything that makes Uncharted great with the world traversal. This genre of game with the linear yet still open area kind of progression. I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, man, and I mean, honestly, the best supporting character in the game is the droid.
And then Grease is a close second, because Grease is freaking funny.
Yeah, Grease, he's all right.
He just has no substance, you know? He's just funny.
Yeah.
He's just there.
I mean, his character kind of has a hiccup at one point, which of course I won't talk about, but it's like, again, dude, with the character development, it's not there all throughout the game. And I think that sucks. Because it's such a definitive experience, and it feels like it's 80% of what it could have been if the guys over at Respawn just put a little more thought into the character.
Yeah, dude.
Because what we're talking about, guys, it's just basic, standard character development. Who is this person? Why should I care? Give me a reason to care. Get the audience member to be attached. Get the player to be attached to the characters for certain reasons. Show the player things. Have the player experience things that make you connected to the supporting characters as well. I mean, it's just not there for anyone except Cal. And I think that's a shame. But otherwise, man, again, definitive Star Wars experience and just incredible to play and very challenging, even on the easiest mode, which is crazy and hard to believe.
But yeah, I started the game.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, dude.
No, you go, because you actually played it on the hardest difficulty.
I played it on the hardest difficulty until about what would you consider it? The second mini boss of the game? Because you have the one on Bogano, the optional mini boss.
Yeah.
So
there are a lot of bosses throughout the game.
Right. So let's just say it's hard to call it a boss, but it's kind of a boss. It's kind of a mini boss. Whatever.
Right.
But during the second zone, I'll call it, I had to turn the difficulty down because I was getting one shot. I was getting literally one shot. I'm on second hardest difficulty now, and I'm getting two-shotted by the scout trooper commanders. They're two-shotting.
Talk about an authentic experience, though.
Oh, I love the damage values, dude.
Oh man. Yeah. So I mean, I think the game was probably about 90% ready for launch before they just had to obviously go gold and ship it. But for the most part, man, it is one hell of an experience, and a reasonably long experience at that. There is some repetitiveness. I mean, not all of the gameplay and not all of the experience is unique. and you'll find that out for yourself as you play through it. It's the game is not new and fresh 100% of the time, but for the most part, man, it's also so far pretty seamlessly integrated into canon, which I appreciate. They haven't stepped on anyone's toes.
Yeah, it's super disconnected, which is nice.
I mean, when you get to one of the planets, I was just kind of like, all right, well, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but okay, I can make that leap. And that's kind of the thing about Star Wars and new canon and all these things being added. You have to make leaps. Even with the Clone Wars, it's a huge leap to say that not only did Anakin have a Padawan throughout the Clone Wars they never spoke of, but that she's off on the Mandalorian homeworld fighting off Darth Maul with the 501st.
Jeez, right?
While Revenge of the Sith is going on. I mean, the Clone Wars forces you to make those leaps, and it's just always going to be a problem when you're creating stories in and around others that have been previously established. And I would say, so far, Fallen Order has done a very good job of not doing that and actually linking in fairly well, for the most part. And what I also appreciate, man, is you can tell that they did their homework.
Definitely.
I mean, when you get to some of the worlds, you can tell that there was enough research done to offer you the authentic experience. Now, I don't want to get into too many details of like some of the things that are strewn about certain planets, but some of them are a little canon breaking for a huge Star Wars buff like me. And it's not like canon breaking to the point where it's like, oh, well, in the comics, this looked like this, so it should look like that in the game. No, it's just you watch one scene in Revenge of the Sith and you're just like, all right, well, that shouldn't look like that. I mean, you only have to like pull up a clip on YouTube of the scene from Revenge of the Sith to know it's not supposed to look that way. But it's just the little things. Those are nitpicks. It pulls me out briefly when I'm going through the worlds. But still a nitpick nonetheless. And Jedi Fallen Order, so far, still having yet to complete the game. Dude, I would give this an 8 out of 10. Easy.
Oh, yeah. Exactly what I was thinking. Now, I gave Death Stranding an 8 out of 10 as well, and I just want to kind of explain that option, because I really don't like giving grades to games, because it's hard. But it's hard not to in this format that we do, our reviews and whatnot. Fallen Order is a video game, and it is the general accepted kind of term of a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Death Stranding breaks the medium a little bit, and it's kind of jarring, and it's not a masterpiece because it's over self-indulgent. It's overly indulgent and treats itself too seriously.
And I really had no idea that it was that long.
Oh yeah, it's long. It's very tedious, but it's very fascinating. But yeah, no, this game's great. It's your run-of-the-mill video game though, which is not a problem. I love video games. This is a great video game. Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed. I mean, Respawn has finally pulled off something pretty special here, and we needed it after the first. God, dude, I mean, this has been the first almost completely solid Star Wars game since Disney got the license to make the game and gave it to EA to make the games. That's crazy to me. Tate, we're in 2019, and this is the first time we're able to say this is a near perfect Star Wars game. Like it took EA that long to work with a studio to create a game. I think that's really sad that it's happening this late in the game when you actually look back at things in hindsight.
Yep.
But I'm glad they exist, man. Play Jedi Fallen Order when you get the chance. I don't think anyone will be disappointed.
Honestly, I agree.
So, a pretty big thing happened during our second 2-week hiatus. And finally, Disney Plus launched on November 12th, gifting us a plethora of Disney movies and shows to enjoy, most of the iconic ones. And they pretty much put everything on Disney Plus that I think anyone could have hoped for, especially at launch. I mean, they would have put more on there if they didn't have so many hands still tied in with Netflix. Disney Plus has had one hell of a launch, man. I gotta admit, it's been pretty fantastic.
Oh,
And
30 seasons of The
yeah,
Simpsons, dude. All 30 seasons of The Simpsons. That's insane. I didn't know about that, Ross, until like 2 days ago.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, I just first of all like I mean, when I first saw in the initial screenshot of Disney Plus, I was like, okay, it looks relatively straightforward. This is the most user-friendly streaming service that I've ever had,
Oh,
that I've ever
100%.
been a part of.
100%.
Everything is very easy to find. It is very cleanly laid out, very simple. I've always really despised Netflix's approach, where you're just trying to go through and look around, and things are playing, things are expanding, posters change every week. I think Netflix is awful, if I'm being honest. Um, but no, Disney Plus to me is exactly how a streaming service should be laid out. And now being here a couple weeks after the launch, man, I'm just so impressed. And I mean, with it, Disney Plus has brought us the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, the Clone Wars in full as we build up to the final season in February. 16 MCU movies, and they would have added more. Pretty much all of them, the ones, except for the Spider-Man films, because of Sony, obviously, if they didn't already have so many, connections with Netflix, which I don't think expire fully until like next July is when I think Disney will finally be able to put pretty much all of the MCU onto Disney Plus, which is just so exciting. All the Disney classics are on here.
Right.
I mean, anything you can think of that you love or loved from your childhood is on here. I really, when you look at the list of Disney Plus's launch, it didn't look like that much, but when it's actually all laid out for you on the platform, dude, it's a lot of material.
You get all the
for
Muppets
$7 a month.
You get all of the Simpsons content. You get all like the Disney Channel originals. You get Zack and Cody. I think is even on there. That's nuts.
My god, dude! I mean, everything that we all love from our childhood. It's all here. I mean, if you want to if you want to experience any of it again, there's nothing really left out for the most part. I mean, and if there is something left out, you can send it in to Disney, and I'm sure they're collecting feedback to see just what is the most requested and what they can add. And Tate, all of this is just so fantastic on Disney Plus that I wonder if this is too good to be true. How long is it going to be like this? Like, how long is it going to be like this?
Because I think they said
well, I don't mind. Honestly, I don't care if they raise the price. Like, I'm going to pay for this regardless to watch The Mandalorian. Are you kidding me? 100%. To have easy access to the Clone Wars, just that alone is already enough. No, but for real, I think they're going to be adopting a similar model where things kind of come and go, similar to Netflix, and that concerns me a little bit if that's true, because it's like, you better get watching like right now, because if that's the case, man, you've got so much being offered on Disney Plus that I think you'll definitely want to ensure that you don't miss out on anything that may leave the platform. I mean, this has just been such an incredible launch. I mean, Disney Plus is already my favorite streaming service. I mean, just after a day of using it, I was able to say that. It's fantastic. It really is. And Disney and the $3 billion they invested into this, I think, will ultimately, of course, prove worth it. Because they clearly know what they're doing, man. And I've got to say, The Mandalorian Episode 1 was just fantastic.
It's everything Star Wars should have been since Disney acquired it. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, The Mandalorian Episode 1, like getting started with Disney's first live-action series, of course, all the time leading up to the release of The Mandalorian, we've had a really good idea of just the passion that is going into the series. Because you have Jon Favreau overseeing the whole thing as the lead producer, Dave Filoni directing the pilot. Let me repeat that. Dave Filoni directing the pilot. I mean, and then straight up after that, Rick Famuyiwa directing the second episode. He eventually comes back to direct the third. There's just so many amazing people working on this. Of course, we knew that right from the start. I mean, I was there with friends for the Star Wars Celebration Chicago panel when they showed the first footage, and they showed us a lot of footage at the time. And it was just, Tate, I just feel an enormous sense of pride for both Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. I mean, like, just running into Dave Filoni, in Chicago on the last night of being in Chicago. I mean, I'm talking to the guy with some friends, and it's like, he's just, I mean, he's been George Lucas's number 2 for a reason. I mean, Dave Filoni is Star Wars just as much as George Lucas is. Dave Filoni is just the epitome of a Star Wars fan overseeing all of this. Do I agree with every decision Dave has made in recent years? No. But he's still just the best guy working on Star Wars right now, and gifted us the Clone Wars with George Lucas, and finally having him step over into live action to lead up Disney's first premiere series to launch their streaming. I'm just so happy.
Dream come true.
I mean, I'm just so happy for the guy, and every time he's at a Q&A, he's getting choked up over it. I mean, talking about how proud his dad would have been. I mean, Dave is just the best, and it was just so exciting for me watching The Mandalorian's pilot, knowing everything I was seeing, Dave was behind the camera. And it was just so great, man, because, I mean, he reiterated some of the stuff that he said on the press tour to us in Chicago when we were talking to him, just how different it is to go from all those years of animation and delivering the Clone Wars day in and day out to suddenly being on set behind the camera and having his crew tell him, we got to get all these shots in before the sun comes down. And just having to take in all the different factors that, I mean, it's just a completely different game. Obviously, when you're doing a live action project, and Dave really stepped up, man, because The Mandalorian episode 1 is just the perfect premiere episode. I just could not believe how invested you feel. And the most impressive thing about The Mandalorian, as far as just Disney's involvement with the whole thing goes, is, I mean, this truly is a series for fans, made by fans for fans. Because, I mean, some of the things that they reference and talk about with the Mandalorians and their culture and their ancient past, their ancestors and their history, and how they operate, and the clans, and the Mandalorians, man, are a deep cut for the Star Wars universe. I mean, they are a culture within the culture. And it's just crazy that Disney is leading up their platform with this show, because it's just so deep in Star Wars lore already, straight out the gate.
Dude, I love the Mandalorians in general because it's the most fleshed out religion besides the Jedi Order. You know what I mean? It's a fully functional thing. They have their own languages and a lot of different clans. I mean, it is just the quintessential, I like to say, in terms of giving somebody a lore dump in Star Wars, right? They have a complete backlogged history. They have rules. They have aspirations. I mean, it's the perfect idea for especially a show like this, I think, to focus on a Mandalorian. You know, to really flesh out that culture, to give the fans what they want, to give new people a taste of Star Wars. It's a great choice.
I mean, a brand new taste for Star Wars too, because, I mean, while of course it leans heavily on the original trilogy themes, especially the second episode, it's still very real, and you feel very invested in what's going on, man, because you're watching the Mandalorian, who just is very serious in the first episode, is not wasting any time, just capturing a bounty. I mean, and going through all these really cool but ultimately small scale experiences in the opening episode. And the first thing that I kind of remember is just like how unaffected so much of the galaxy was by the ushering in of the Empire, and then ultimately the Empire's undoing. Because of course, while the big major regimes like the Republic or the Empire, obviously their presence is felt everywhere in the galaxy, ultimately, man, whether it's the Old Republic, the Phantom Menace time, or the Clone Wars, or the Galactic Civil War, or after, the Mandalorians are still Mandalorians. They're still picking up bounties. They're still resisting whatever major galactic superpower there is. I mean, and that's just so real, the Star Wars galaxy, and as such, you just feel, uh, it just feels so authentic, and the way everything is shot, man, it's gorgeous.
Oh my god, yeah.
I mean, the talent really shows through, man, and everything that Jon Favreau has talked about with the cameras and how they've been using, they've been working and they've basically been able to integrate the Unreal Engine into their cameras essentially. And I'm not one to even talk about this, but basically, by using different techniques from the gaming industry, where they were able to kind of pre-generate a lot of what the sets would look like with CG enhancements, and just all this crazy talk of augmented reality being used on set. It's just so exciting because Disney is just dumping so much. They're raising this. They're raising the bar and dumping so much money into a passion-filled project, which is incredible because we've talked about this. While J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson and everybody who has led up Star Wars over the last several years, even Gareth Edwards, I mean, they're all Star Wars fans, right? But not like Dave Filoni.
No. He's the
not
protege,
necessarily like Jon Favreau either. Which is what makes this so great, because all the passion that comes through is just so clear and evident, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree 100%.
And that's really all I can say without spoilers, too. So I guess, Tate, if you're ready to shift into spoilers, have you seen episode 2?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, guys, this is going through the spoiler warning for The Mandalorian. If you have not seen The Mandalorian Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 on Disney Plus, you need to go get your free trial going, or get it going once the first season is done on December 27th, so you can watch it all through. Because The Mandalorian and Disney Plus are worth the $6 or $7, and I highly recommend, I think Tate also recommends, you join in on the platform.
No, Disney Plus is great.
Yeah. And 100% worth the value.
Yeah. $7 a month for like Disney's entire backlog. That's insane. So,
Chapter 1 for The Mandalorian, this pilot episode, man. I gotta say, when the episode first opened, and you know, you're on the snowy planet, he's walking across the ice, going into this cantina. Everybody's been kind of freaking out over, like, oh man, we're going back into a cantina. It's just like A New Hope. I really am so excited and invested in the mystery of each person's lives. You know, every gangster. Like, listen, man. For me, I get it, but also, like, relax, calm down. It's not like we haven't had cantinas in Star Wars since A New Hope. You know, to me, it's not that inspiring. But what is great is how the Mandalorian handles the first few goons inside that cantina, and ultimately that Quarren does get ripped in half by the door, which was pretty nuts, man.
My favorite part about the cantina, sorry to cut you off, but was just to see. We see a Quarren right outside. We see a Kubaz. I mean, we're seeing races that we know as Star Wars fans, but we're also being introduced to new ones. It was so easy. It was so easy. All they had to do was put something that existed in with something that didn't exist yet. That's all The Force Awakens had to do. I love Mos Kanata's castle. I love the way it looks inside. The thing that frustrates me is it doesn't feel like Star Wars because there's nothing that I recognize in that cantina or in Mos's castle.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up really quick because I think that's
it's 100% valid, because while I think having 2/3 of the species being new is fine, the Mandalorian, you know, Rogue One, Solo, and the Mandalorian have proved it's not hard to literally take an alien that already exists, a design you already have, and upgrade it, make new prosthetics, make new animatronics, Because it's like, wow, it's almost like you don't have to start from square one. And I love that, man, because I think having a healthy balance, this is how it should be.
Perfectly
Having a
balanced.
healthy balance, perfectly balanced as all things should be, with the species shown in new canon material moving forward. You should never again have the sequel trilogy where you go an entire movie where the only familiar species is Chewbacca. That's nuts. And so I'm glad that has finally been phased out, and we won't be seeing any more of that. The Rise of Skywalker trailers have also proved that by just hanging a battle droid on the wall. Thankfully, I don't think we're ever going back to that, and the Mandalorian certainly is not either, because of course, with that healthy balance of having both new and old characters, you actually the main bounty the Mandalorian first has when he throws the hologram down on the table after disarming and killing those guys. I loved it. I love the reaction. He was like, "Is that me?" And then the Mandalorian is just like, "I didn't just save you." And he puts his hand on his holster and he's like, "I can take you in warm or cold." And I mean,
it's
the guy
Star
doesn't
Wars.
even try to resist. Yeah,
it's just Star Wars. You know what I mean? Plain and simple.
right. And so I gotta admit, the blue mithril guy, that's the new species that he is, the mithril. To me, whenever they bring in the aquatic species, they always feel like they're fish people, right? The way the the way the Mon Calamari talk, they sound like fish people.
Of course.
Admiral Akbar sounds like a fish. Prince Lee Char in the Clone Wars sounded like a fish. The Quarren certainly sound like fish, but then this Mithril guy just sounds like your average American comedian. He just sounds like Snap Wexley or like just your average Joe, and I just thought that was kind of immersion breaking for me, especially as the scene progresses and he takes him back to the Razor Crest, and the guy's like, "I can't go anywhere. You're not talking. I'm gonna go look for the toilet," and then the guy's like looking up the ramp and he's like, I forgot what he said, man, but it was like, "I'm molting," and I'm like, oh boy, like it was. They needed to make the guy sound different.
Yeah, no, I kind of disagree, dude. I kind of like just that variety there in Star Wars.
Yeah, and part of me disagrees too, because part of me also disagrees with myself, because I also appreciate the variety. So I don't know, but that was a nitpick more than anything. It's an incredible opening sequence that makes the Mandalorian's mystery, like the overall mystery of the Mandalorian's character very, very clear, and I love that, man, because you cannot get a read on the Mandalorian really until like the end of the episode, which I love, man, because that's how Mandalorians really should be. They're mysterious. Even though now we know who Boba Fett is, he's still a mysterious guy.
Okay, speaking of which, sorry to interject, Ross. This guy is not Boba Fett. Please stop. Right. I was on Reddit yesterday, and I just saw, maybe it's Boba Fett. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
I can't believe that like so many people are continuing to theorize. Like I personally haven't seen any myself, because I mean, I don't dip into the Star Wars underworld of stupid. But
Boba Fett's not even a Mandalorian. He just stole the armor from his dad, who wasn't even a Mandalorian.
Right.
Like, it's so frustrating.
Right.
I'm sorry. I just had to say that, dude. I just had to put that.
No, I get it. No, for sure. I mean, it's very valid, because I mean that's a discussion that I've had with people, and I think you included, leading up to the Mandalorian, is like your average Joe, man, will see that helmet and be like, "Is that?" I mean, anyone who's not really invested in Star Wars is going to look at that helmet, see that T-visor, and be like, "Oh, that's Boba Fett." But no, and yeah, man. But I mean, as the whole, as the episode progresses, and then he throws that guy in the carbon freezing chamber. And by the way, I want to take a second to appreciate that, because I like how 5 years down the road, the carbon freezing tech has evolved a bit, and it's not this big ritual ceremony on Bespin. He just pushes the guy in, freeze.
That was my first reaction. Yeah, that was I think that's one of the first things I texted you, Ross.
Yeah.
And
that's something that has been right. That has been so completely absent from the sequel trilogy that it's been obnoxious. Just basic evolution in the tech. And I'm glad the Mandalorian, straight out the gate it kind of starts to go in the opposite direction as far as, just world building goes with the basic technology and the little things like that. And so as he lands on the main planet, and he drops off his bounties that are all frozen in carbonite as well, he of course walks through the town, which is really great. It's basically just Tatooine with dirt, instead.
I'll take it, dude. It reminded me of like Rogue One. Like it was very Rogue One.
Oh, 100%. And as he goes into the canteen on that planet, I loved it because, of course, you not only have Carl Weathers there, but I mean, these guys are kind of talking about Carl Weathers is obviously strapped for cash, strapped for credits rather, and how I love the different little details about how he's like trying to hand over some Imperial credits to the Mandalorian. Mandalorians are like, he's like, these aren't as valuable anymore. Like I don't basically saying. Those are, they're not worth as much anymore with the collapse of the Empire now, and so he hands him over some other different types of credits, and I loved it because important details I think is the fact that you have a few Trandoshans in the background, and I think those are the same Trandoshans in episode 1,
100%.
Yeah, that inevitably track the Mandalorian down after he acquires the bounty. So I thought that was cool. But then as the Mandalorian finally goes and kind of kicks off, because we had seen this scene in we saw a version of the scene with Carl Weathers' character, Griff Karga. I believe his name is Griff Karga, if I'm not mistaken. We saw that in Chicago, and they played it for us at the panel. And then also the following scene, we got a much longer, less edited version of the scene where he links up with the Imperial Remnant guy. I forget his name.
I have no idea.
It's Werner Herzog's character from Game of Thrones, and basically this guy is a leftover, Imperial higher up who is just kind of shoved in this old decrepit building on this backwater planet with a few remaining stormtroopers. And I remember that was one of the first things that I absolutely loved when they first showed the footage to us in Chicago, and we talked about that shortly after when I got back, where it's like, these stormtroopers are barely even bothering to clean their armor anymore. The Empire has been gone for 5 years. They're barely surviving the galaxy without the Empire as their structure. And I mean, their armor is just coated in dirt. They're clearly exhausted looking. And a scientist walks out, and what's really cool is this scientist has a Camino cloners patch on his arm.
Oh my gosh, that's a really cool theory that we can talk about in a second here.
Yeah. So as the scene progresses, I mean, that scientist takes the Mandalorian off guard. The Mandalorian draws his rifle. He's holding his rifle out with one hand, his blaster in the other.
I love his blaster, by the way, the Christmas special.
Oh, yeah, man.
What's that one called? Do you know?
I forget. But I know it's lifted from the original holiday special animation.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's like a bolt action Star Wars rifle is super sick in my opinion.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know you don't really care for it, Tate, but the line where the stormtroopers go, "We have you 3-1," and he's like, "I like those odds."
Dude, it's not that I don't care for it. It's like so painfully Star Wars. It's like, oh my god, it's so painfully Star Wars. It's like, dude,
it's so painfully Star Wars, and it's so painfully badass. I don't care how many times it's been said by other action heroes.
Ross, can we just talk about Star Wars as a whole? Because I feel like some people take it way too serious. Star Wars is campy as fuck. Okay, Star Wars is fun, entertaining. It is action packed. That is all Star Wars needs to be, right? And I feel like putting more thought into it than that is an issue if you're going to start pushing motives of real life people, like with the sequel movies. But when you have a serious Star Wars story, it does work. But at the end of the day, it will always be a camp fest. Like, I think Clone Wars has the best heavy stories in all of Star Wars canon, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but even so, dude, the Clone Wars is campy and fun because that's what Star Wars is as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people forget that sometimes.
I loved it because the scene and Werner Herzog, his character is just the client, by the way. He doesn't actually have a name.
Gotcha.
Which is very cool. I love that mystery. I love the mysterious elements to the Mandalorian. He basically says that that this is going to have to afford a certain level of discretion. There is no puck, right, for the Bounty Hunters Guild for him to take around, and I think he only is able to give the Mandalorian a transponder that'll ultimately, it's just a basic beeper that'll just beep the loudest when you're closest to the bounty.
Can we take a second, really quick, Ross? I want to point out something. I want to point out that we got 2 Star Wars things in 1 week, which is incredible. But in both Star Wars things, they immediately bring up guilds. That is something that has been completely absent from all Star Wars media because we don't just see people living lives in Star Wars.
Right.
At the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis is working at a ship scrapyard, and they say something about the Labor Guild. In this show, there's a bounty hunting guild. There is order and there is understanding. These aren't just savages who go out and do their own thing. And I really appreciate just that extra step to make it feel more genuine.
Yeah, there's a system in place, and that's what the Bounty Hunters Guild has always been to the Star Wars universe, but it's always played such a background role that it's barely ever even been brought up, but most bounty hunters abide by it, so that they're not shooting each other over basic petty bounties when there's always more than enough to go around. And while it does, the guild sort of contradicts the idea of a bounty hunter, it ultimately makes sense. And of course, this makes it more efficient. So then as he, the big deal, like what gets the Mandalorian to agree to this is the client, the Imperial client, offers him a piece of Mandalorian Beskar metal. And that's obviously very valuable to Mandalorians because that's what their armor is crafted with. The metal is all Beskar with Mandalorians, and so it's a very strong metal, right? It's able to take a few blasts, and it's very special to them. I mean, like, they've built their lifestyle around that damn metal, And so he happily takes that as payment and just walks over. I think it was a down payment, right? He was going to get more Beskar metal for the bounty ultimately. But he immediately takes that, and apparently on this planet, going down a few steps, you've got a whole, this took me totally off guard, a whole Mandalorian clan living underground on this planet. And you're walking by these Mandalorians, and I'm like, oh my God. And you realize that there are so many more active Mandalorians still out there bounty hunting.
It's society, dude.
And I love it, man, because they're not all caught up with the BS that's always going down on their actual homeworld and the civil wars that never seem to end. But a lot of them are off just doing their own thing. And it's so cool to see. Because they all look so great.
And it's also, it makes it feel realistic, right? Because the Mandalorians, the thing about the Mandalorians...
It does, man. And he walks up, and he goes over to this Mandalorian blacksmith, and this lady is badass. Not only does she have a Night Owl-style helmet, but she's got, like, a fur coat over. I'm like, this is incredible. So this is stuff lifted straight from Legends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just going to bring that up. So
I just immediately got so excited for all the people who are heavy Mandalorian fans, who are way more invested in the Mandalorians than I've ever been.
Well, like the Mandos, the cosplay group, and like the Milsim group.
It's a dream come true.
It's a dream come true. I want to bring up, Ross. So the Mandalorians and Legends, right? And I think this applies to canon, but Mandalorians of Mandalore, and then you have Mandalorians from Offworld, right? You can join the religion if you really want to, and I appreciate that we see that because we can assume that Mandalore, it's been taken over, the religion's been stomped out. So to see it, what is it, 30 or 20 years later, approximately, right? Since the Siege of Mandalore?
Well, you had the Siege of Mandalore, but then you also had the all the crap that went on during Star Wars Rebels when they gave when Sabine gave the dark saber.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Bo-Katan, and they kind of united as Mandalore. There was a lot that still happened before the Mandalorian and before the Galactic Civil War broke out in New Hope.
Right, but we can assume it's been a long time. It's nice to just see Mandalorians off-world doing their own thing.
Right.
Because they're not people shrouded in mystery. They are, but they're not completely reclusive people like, A lot of people like to bring up Boba Fett. Oh, he was a recluse. He was the only Mandalorian we ever saw. He wasn't even a Mandalorian. He was just a bounty hunter. That's why he was so reclusive. That's why he was so
just
individual.
a bounty hunter who just happened to be
in Mandalorian armor.
Descendant clone of, the clone template himself, Jango Fett. I mean, Boba Fett is really only special because of a series of coincidences.
Exactly. And even his dad is not that special. Jango Fett was just a really good bounty hunter. He stole the Mandalorian armor.
The best bounty hunter, theoretically, at the time.
Right, exactly. So, Mandalorians, we know a lot about, and we know that they're just people who live in their own society. So it's really nice to see them in that light.
And so, as she is smelting down the Beskar metal and crafting his new pauldron, every time she's clanking down with the hammer, you're having these very quick flashbacks to the Mandalorian as a child. And based on the final trailer for The Mandalorian, which you saw, right, Tate?
No, I didn't watch any trailers.
You
get spoiled, dude. I mean, if it's in a trailer, I don't mind.
Well, it's in the trailer. You probably already saw it all over Twitter or all over Instagram. But there are super battle droids.
Oh,
and
yeah,
droid gunships.
Yeah.
There are super battle droids and droid gunships from the Clone Wars in the series, not just destroyed and strewn about, but actually online and active and shooting at people. And at first, we were all kind of looking at them, and the super battle droids are enhanced. They're not your regular super battle droids. And again, it's so spectacular that I'm even able to say that we're getting live action super battle droids again.
That's so sick.
They look incredible, just the brief clips we've gotten of them. But when we first saw that sequence in the trailers, I was like, okay, so I imagine a bounty hunter or some crime syndicate have repurposed like a small army of super battle droids or just battle droids or just whatever remnant CIS forces. And I mean, you had a lot of that, obviously, after the shutdown command was initiated and people spent, the Empire couldn't get all of the droids, right, before people picked them up and had the balls to turn them on and reprogram them. But the point is, we now know that those super battle droids are not active and around post Return of the Jedi here 5 years after with the Mandalorian story, but they appear to be in the flashbacks. And they are not in the first episode, but of course, it is from the same sequence, what we saw in the trailer, and these first glimpses at the flashback sequence in The Mandalorian. So I can only imagine that my guess for The Mandalorian's origin is that his parents were killed by droids during a raid at some point during the Clone Wars, where they barely got him to safety, as we see in these first initial flashbacks, and then they probably got mowed down by a droid gunship. I assume that's probably what's going to happen. And that's really cool, man. That the Clone Wars are ultimately what defined the Mandalorian, and the female Mandalorian, the blacksmith, she says, then they kind of both discuss how he says, "I was a fondling once," and then she says, "I know," so they clearly know each other. And when they both say fondling, I imagine that they haven't really established what that means for the Mandalorians yet. But if I were to guess, I imagine that's what they call a kid who they scoop up and then make a Mandalorian, whether they're pure blood Mandalorian or not.
Well, that's also what I was saying about Mandalorians not being exclusively, the race.
Right, 100%. So I think that's really cool. I'm looking forward to finally seeing live action CIS forces again, man. They look incredible. Yeah, but then as he travels to the next world, he links up with Nick Nolte's Ugnaught, which, by the way, dude, is apparently an animatronic.
What?
That's how crazy and how much money is going into this series. Apparently, that's an animatronic that's able to simulate a performance based on Nick Nolte's dialogue.
That's a joke.
We're going to have to wait for Jon Favreau's confirmation of exactly how they bring that Ugnaught to life. But that's a practical Ugnaught, dude.
I thought it was makeup. I thought it was Nick Nolte's voice with a makeup artist.
I don't think that. I think at the very least, it's obviously a guy. walking around in it, but the mask is an animatronic.
Right.
I think this guy is wearing, and not just like the basic one with basic controls, but like something apparently more. And if that's the case, man, I mean, tech is advancing very quickly, because that's nuts. If there's any truth to what I just said, but it looked great, and I love the personality that's found through him. And of course, he rescues the Mandalorian, because as soon as the Mandalorian gets off the Razor Crest to go and set out looking for the bounty, he gets ambushed by, what are they called again? It keeps escaping me. By what are they called?
Trandoshans?
No.
The little Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, snake.
Yeah.
Donkey, two-legged.
Donkey, two-legged.
Snake donkeys, dude.
No, I'm committing. I know what they're called, and I just keep forgetting.
Snake donkey things from Rebels.
Oh, they're blurgs. I didn't even have to look it up. Okay, it just came to me. Okay.
Came to me in a flash.
Yeah, so he gets ambushed by a couple blurgs, and I think the blurgs were in Clone Wars here and there.
Were they? Oh yeah, they were. Because
they were, but you might be, but there's a difference between the blurgs and the Gutkers that we saw in like the early Ryloth episodes.
Okay.
But yeah, blurgs were a little bit in the Clone Wars a little bit, because the blurgs were because Cham Syndulla and the Ryloth freedom fighters were riding blurgs in the Clone Wars. But they weren't the Gutkers, the really aggressive ones.
No, I remember.
Type.
You have like a couple scenes where they're riding them into battle in the front lines.
Right, and then in Rebels they're riding them again, and now we're getting them live action, man. So, I love this, because this is pretty much where the Mandalorian is no longer in his element, right? He's not hunting down other outlaws. He's not hunting down criminals. He is just on this backwater planet, and he gets jumped by a couple blurgs that tear him up before Nick Nolte's Ugnaught character named Kuel ultimately sedates them and shocks them with a couple tranq darts and takes him out. And then he takes the Mandalorian to his hut. And I love the personality, because as he's speaking to him and he talks to him about what's going on his land, and then he just finishes with, "I have spoken," and it just stops. He's not saying anything else. Like, once he says, "I have spoken," that's it.
Yep.
I love that, man. Very cool. It's always those little things, unique to the supporting characters, that really makes you feel like you're in a galaxy far, far away. It's always those unexpected little personality, kind of like quirks that you find. And so then as he approaches the encampment that Kuel is talking about, you got a lot of guys down there. A few recognizable species. I think there's like maybe one Twi'lek, maybe not. But there are certainly a couple Nikto, which is very cool.
Right, the Nikto, and then what else was it? Oh God,
there might have been one Rodian. I don't know.
I didn't see a Rodian. I did not.
I don't think so.
I thought I saw. Was there a Duros with the big eyes?
Duros? No, there was no Duros.
No.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I love it, because then of course he sees IG-11 approaching them, and dude.
Okay, IG-11's literally Mecha Hitler, because Taika Waititi plays Hitler in Jojo Rabbit, so he's literally Mecha Hitler. All right? I just wanted to bring that up, just for reference. Yeah.
But Tait, obviously back in the 80s, they could not have IG-11 do anything, because they're limited with the effects of the time. Right. But did I say IG-11?
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant IG-88.
We all know what you mean.
Yeah. You couldn't do anything with assassin droids back then, and then there were really no assassin droids in the prequels, and so this is our first time.
Weren't there assassin droids in Clone Wars though?
Yeah, there were assassin droids in Clone Wars.
But never live action.
They didn't do a lot. Yeah. Like the assassin droids, they never like spun around and twisted their bodies and had all these really jarring and jagged movements that just make them feel terrifying, like, killing machines.
I love the way IG-11 moves, because it just feels like an inorganic killing machine. Yeah,
it's just a very old-fashioned droid that just moves. Doesn't have a personality. It isn't slow at all. isn't human-like in the slightest, is just a killing machine on two legs. And when they first showed this shot in the first footage, in the first sizzle reel in Chicago at the panel, we all freaked out because that was immediately the best shot of anything they showed us when we first saw IG-11 spinning and twisting with it. Oh my god! And he just freaking clears out like half of this militia.
Yeah.
And then the Mandalorian comes down, and dude, Taika Waititi, I love how they still kept it authentic with Taika Waititi.
It wasn't over. He didn't overdo it, and Taika Waititi loves to overdo it, but he didn't overdo it. I'm so grateful.
IG-11 is still a robot. It sounds like
so
as cold as you'd want.
I am so grateful that he didn't overdo it, dude.
Because yeah, man, if IG-11 just sounded like Korg, I was gonna be kind of taken out of it.
Yeah. Mecha Hitler.
But I just love how IG-11 fights. It's incredible to watch as the music builds, and then, of course, as ultimately they are starting to get cornered, and IG-11 has a thermal detonator in his chest that he's just ready to detonate because he knows he cannot be captured.
That was something serious, big dog.
No, yeah, it was a bit more than a thermal detonator. It probably looked like it could have leveled a building easy. Whatever that device is that IG-11 has as a failsafe, but what a great sequence, man! Just so exhilarating, so exciting, and again, being directed by Dave Filoni, I could not be more excited to be watching it, knowing that he was behind the lens. And then, of course, as they get into the room, you got the big spoiler. The bounty is a baby.
Not just any baby.
But the same species as Yoda.
So, Ross, I have an interesting theory, and this is completely headcanon, but we know nothing about the Yoda species. We don't even know what it's called.
We do not.
So let's just call it green dudes, all right? So green dudes, we have Yoda and Yaddle, that's it. We don't know where they come from. All we know is they're old and they age extremely slowly. I am under the assumption that because of the fact that the only three that... Well, this is a huge spoiler. We're in the spoiler section, so I'm going to say it. The only three green dudes we see are Force sensitive. I think they're children born of the Force. That is my headcanon. That's what I'm sticking with. Mm-hmm. I think they are almost like the Wills in the sense of they are a species that is completely born of the Force.
That would be cool.
I think so. I think that works really well, and I think that's very satisfying.
Right. The animatronic for that Baby Yoda, dude. Oh my god. Oh
my lord, dude.
So great.
Yeah, okay, this is another thing. Like, mixing CGI and mixing animatronics, this show does it incredibly well.
Right. Because IG-11 just looked so real 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you really think about it, I couldn't think of a single frame where that assassin droid didn't look real. And and of course, this is when we get our first glimpse into the heart of the Mandalorian, right? And starting to make him into a character.
Because
of course, yeah.
Sorry, our Mandalorian having a heart is another thing that was a little bit jarring for people that aren't big on Star Wars, because you just see what's his name, Boba Fett, Jango Fett, just as ruthless killers every time they're on screen.
Yeah.
So for our Mandalorian to have a heart, for him to be a human being, is very weird. Right, and I feel like that's just great. I feel like it's really excellent. I feel like it's just another dynamic in the show that I feel like is underappreciated. Is the fact that we have this guy in Mandalorian armor that is a human being,
who's got a soul.
Who's got a soul. Right. I mean, it separates. Oh God, I lost my trail of thought completely. But it separates Boba Fett and the Mandalorian kind of ideology, the assumption that they're just killers, bounty hunters. It separates them from that, and then just a species, a race, whatever you want to call it, a religion of people. Because that's all they are. They're just people. Right? I really like it. I do.
And, so making the decision to take out IG-11, now this took me by surprise.
He's not going to be gone forever, dude.
I mean, I'm hoping not. There's certainly a little bit of promo material that kind of seems like maybe he does come back, but I hope that wasn't it for IG-11. That would really suck. Um, but I mean, all the Mandalorian did was blow his head off. So I mean, blow a hole in his main, you know.
Right, and we can assume. I mean,
Head case.
droids have safe backups. We know that with like, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe there are just a ton of IG-11s, and then like another one will just show up, and that'll be that. And I won't care. It's a droid. It's not like droids can never really like. A droid like IG-11 is never going to become a character, right? He's always just going to be IG-11.
So the thing that confuses me about bounty hunting droids, assassin droids, being bounty hunters specifically, is a droid can't take a reward and have something meaningful. So I want to see who's behind IG-11.
Right, because
we've never really
IG-11 had very different orders to the Mandalorian.
Yes, but okay.
To capture or kill if absolutely necessary. But then, dude, IG-11 was just gonna friggin' shoot that baby as soon as he could.
Well, IG-11 wasn't getting his orders from the same people, obviously.
Right.
But also, dude, I want to just really capitalize on the fact that perhaps the real character, Taika Waititi, right, his voice, perhaps he has a bunch of IG-11s and he's a crime boss. He's a crime lord who sends them out to do his dirty work, or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There could be a dozen IG-11s.
Right. Oh, dude, it'd be so interesting if, like, through the series you see different IG-11s and then you see the man behind it all, and he's just some bigwig crime boss like Jabba the Hutt sending him out to do his dirty work.
Right.
Another thing I like a lot is that droids in Star Wars are sentient, right? IG-11, he has orders, right? But he's also willing to split the bounty, right? He's also willing to work with the Mandalorian. I really would have liked, though, if this was saved for episode 2, specifically the team up dynamic, because I just wanted to see the Mandalorian fight by himself against all odds. But we'll see plenty of that. We have 6 episodes
I think
left.
That this made for a really good, fast-paced opening to really.
I agree.
And I think you needed IG-11 to really get people engaged.
Sure.
And make sure that would happen. And what's really cool, man, I love the credits. The credits are always a gift at the end of every episode.
Dude.
Oh my god.
The concept art?
Yeah, dude, the concept art with like the mural texture. Apparently that concept art was the same concept art that they made initially. So like all the concept art we're seeing is the concept art they had hanging in the rooms when they brought in the actors to finally sign on and pitch these roles to them. And I just love it, man, because you can see just how close they came to actually recreating the concept art. They really stuck to it, and I love that. Because that means they know exactly the series they're trying to make, the story they're trying to tell, and they're sticking to it. And obviously there's unused concept art, but I'm saying, as far as the concept art goes that was used, it's almost 1-to-1.
Dude, they gotta make their vision, and that's what we want in Star Wars. Ultimately, as fans, we want the story writers, the people who are making the show to actually be able to make the show they want to make. We don't want corporate nonsense. We don't want real world narratives to be written. We just want Star Wars, and that's really what we're doing here.
And so, episode 2.
A lot weaker. I'll start by saying that.
Okay, thank you, God. I'm not the only one with an unpopular opinion.
No, dude, Ross, when I texted you, I liked it. It's just because we're getting Star Wars.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So let me just preface. Episode 2 is fun. It's enjoyable. It's a great time. It really is, and really takes you even deeper into this little slice of the galaxy, where you're not you're not jumping from the next big plot point. You're not jumping from one big plot point to the next. And I'm conflicted, Tate, because obviously that makes sense for a series. You have the time to do that for a series. I'm not going to flip out that just one episode out of the 8 was a side quest. But when they came out and said 8 episodes, from we're going right from start to finish. They have the narrative. It's going to be more structured, and especially when Disney Plus launched and we realized these episodes are only going to be 30 to 35 minutes, I was like, okay, so they're really not wasting any time. But then when episode 2 comes out and you're watching this whole escapade of him just getting off the planet and dicking around with sandcrawlers, or with a sandcrawler full of off-world Jawas, as they're called, I'm like, all right, listen, man, I'm having fun watching this, right? That's what Star Wars has to be first and foremost, is fun. And that's fine. It's just barely any story happens in episode 2. You have the reveal that Baby Yoda can use the Force, obviously. He walks up, and dude, the Baby Yoda scenes are adorable.
Oh, they're great, dude. They're really good.
every time little baby Yoda is walking around, I already want to die. It's too cute. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And then there's something so satisfying about watching the Mandalorian, this cold and mysterious warrior having to pick up this little Yoda baby and put it back in its little.
Oh, dude, that's one of the most satisfying story beats of all time, right? Of a tough guy babysitting. You know what I mean? I do want to say about episode 2 about the first episode being so action packed and concise. In episode 2, we do get that big reveal of the Force sensitivity, but is that enough for the rest of the episode to be a tangent? What do you think?
Right, and that's what I'm saying is like, you could have had that Force sensitivity reveal on like Moff Gideon's Death Troopers or on AT.
Exactly. That's my idea exactly.
But listen, man. Like I said, even though the whole episode is a side quest, it's so much fun.
Oh, it's so entertaining. It's so entertaining.
Like straight up, when he first of all, the Trandoshan fight, great, love that.
Oh, I love how gritty it was and how he actually got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt by just a few Trandoshans. Now, I will be honest, this is where I wish there was a bit more continuity with the Clone Wars, because the Trandoshans have this raspy voice, and obviously they don't talk, that's fine. But the Trandoshans, when they kind of rattle their tongues, they sound like snakes. It sounds so reptilian, and it's a very distinct sound that the Trandoshans have.
I would know. I mean, it is my species, so.
Right.
It is my alien race.
You of all people would know exactly what I'm talking about.
We lost a Trandoshan, boys.
We did.
We did. Rest in peace, Zeus. He was a good one.
That also happened while we were gone. Tait lost a Geki.
Hey, man. You know what? He was my buddy. We brought him out during the podcast a couple times. He was a good lad.
That was such a great funeral you had for him, too.
Thanks, man. But anyway, dude, Trandoshans, I mean, we have continuity as to what they're supposed to be.
Right. So, yeah, that wasn't there. You didn't get to really hear that, but that's fine. Who cares? It was great. Great fight sequence.
And honestly, dude, maybe some Trandoshans have better hygiene and better throat health than others. So.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Dude, when he pulls up on his ship and he sees the Razor Crest being torn apart by these Jawas.
Oh, I love that.
Dude, he did the one thing that every Star Wars fan has had the fleeting thought of, at least for half a second. Why doesn't somebody just shoot the damn Jawas? Shoot them.
Okay, I want to bring up something. So this show is rated like PG-13 or like whatever, TV-14, whatever it is.
Right.
So they can't show, they didn't show the Quarren getting shot in half. They didn't really show the skiff driver getting eaten alive by that monster. But they showed Jawas disintegrating.
Yeah, but the Jawas, they just kind of fade away really fast in a flash.
Dude, I don't know. The disintegration made my stomach crawl, especially the Trandoshan disintegration at the beginning.
But it was so satisfying.
Oh my god.
As he's picking them off, it's just like, thank God someone finally just shoots at them.
Dude, I love... Okay, you know what? The fact that they're disintegrating whenever he shoots them just brings it back full circle to episode 5. No disintegrations. You know what I mean? It's just such a Star Wars cliche. It's a line that everybody knows that we've never seen on screen. We've never seen somebody get disintegrated in Star Wars, and oh my god, we finally did. How awesome is that, dude? I know it's just a fleeting thought and like a kind of a tangent, but I love the continuity.
No, dude, it was great. And then of course the Sandcrawler starts to move away, and dude, the Sandcrawler looks so good.
Oh my god,
looks so good. I don't know if that's a practical prop that they're moving around, or if that's all CG. I'm pretty sure it's all CG.
It's gotta be CG, dude.
But, dude. And then he's shooting at the engine, he's trying to chase it down, and then he jumps onto it. And I didn't even think he was going to be able to catch up, let alone jump on it and have this incredibly fun sequence where he's climbing up it. They're poking out the windows, panicking how to get him off. They're communicating with each other. And then they coordinate, so they move close to the rock face, thinking they'll knock him off that way. Then he quickly lays on the side of the Sandcrawler. Then he keeps climbing. He's pulling them out of the windows. They're stunning him. They're throwing down parts at him. What a fun sequence.
So Star Wars. So Star Wars.
I mean, everything you could have asked for out of a Jawa sequence. And, of course, I don't know what he expected when he got to the top. They're all standing right up there, and they just stun his ass collectively. And, of course, Mandalorian Beskar armor or not, that's a few too many stun guns, and he went right off.
Dude, I want to bring up something. This is kind of a tangent.
Yeah.
but we see that he has Beskar helmet, a Beskar pauldron, but the rest of his armor is not. Right? And we see his armor get completely thrashed in episode 2. Like, we see the internal plate of Mandalorian armor twice in episode 2. I think as the story goes on, he's going to get more and more Beskar pieces. Imagine how rad it's going to be when he has a Beskar.
No, he definitely does, because you can see in like some of the photos released, like he's got like more metal parts.
Right, right. But dude, think about how incredible it's going to be when you see a Beskar chest piece. Right, we just watched the chest piece in one episode get ripped open twice. Imagine when that's Beskar. Oh my god, and it's going to be so satisfying.
Yeah, so then like when he gets left in the dirt and then he has to trudge back to Kule's place and tell him what happened. Now he's got the little Yoda, and then he's just like, and then he's like, I will take you to them. And I love the negotiation scene when he just has to walk up to the Jawas after all of that.
After killing a few of them as well?
What?
I said after killing them as well? I mean, he killed a good few of them.
I was surprised they were even willing to talk to him.
But they're Jawas, dude. They're selfish bastards, so...
Right. And I love how he starts trying to speak their language, and he's like, they basically, the Jawas say, your Jawa sounds like Wookiee, and then he's like, well, they understand this, and he pulls out the flamethrower.
Right? Oh my god.
So satisfying.
Mandalorian, dude.
And I love when he used it on the, it just happened again. When he used it on the
on the, oh my god, what do they call it? It's like one word.
Blurg! I gotta remember that word, man. I don't know why I'm so forgetful.
It's a stupid word, dude. Blurg is the stupidest.
I keep forgetting it. But yeah, when he used it on the Blurg in episode 1, I didn't know he had a flamethrower, so that was so exciting. Because he doesn't have a jetpack, so I'm not assuming he has all the same gadgets as as Boba. But he pretty much does everything except for the jetpack.
He has the wrist, the wrist grappling hook. He has the flamethrower. I'd love to see him get a jetpack, dude. I'd love that so much.
Well, I mean, you haven't seen the trailers though, right?
Oh, is there a trailer where he has a jetpack?
He does get a jetpack.
That's so sick, dude. See,
You've seen the jetpack in the trailer.
Ross, this is the reason why I don't watch trailers, and I don't have a problem with discussing it if it's in a trailer, of course. But I just opt not to see it because do you know how incredible that would be if you just see him get a jetpack?
Yeah, man, if you don't have to watch it, if you don't have to make a video on it, it's like, I probably wouldn't watch trailers either, to be totally honest with you, at that point, too.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, the podcast is why, I'm cool with seeing trailers and stuff like that. And Ross, I mean, you have to be. You have your channel, like you just said.
Right.
But anyway.
But yeah, dude, so then, like, they want his armor. He's like, nope. And then even the Ugnaught says he's a Mandalorian. That's not possible. And then they want the Yoda baby. And then he's like, there has to be something else. That's what Kule says to them. And then when he finally leaves, and they hop on their blurgs and they go to this cave. Oh man, the Mandalorian going in there, ready to go. Nothing can stop him. He checks his equipment. He's ready for whatever the hell is in there. And he sees his first set of bones, and you cut right back to the outside of the cave, and he's flung out, covered in mud, armor ripped to shreds. I mean, his armor's peeling off, and it's just this desperate altercation against this creature. I forget what they're called, but it's a variation of the same one that we saw in the Geonosis arena in Attack of the Clones.
Oh, so it's the same as a Reek? It's the same species as a Reek?
Yeah, it's like in the same genus. It's a member of the same family. Just not exactly the same.
Right, because it doesn't have the side horns in it.
But I just love, like, the Mandalorian is so out of his element and so not used to fighting creatures like this and dealing with things like this. Dude, he just gets so torn up. Like, like the flamethrower is not working, the grappling hook is not working, his blasters are busted. He just pulls out a knife and he's just kneeling and just ready to get into its mouth and just start stabbing. But then, of course, that's when you have the big reveal, Tate. The big.
That we already. I mean, who was not expecting that when you see that on the screen?
But
dude,
it's so cool. It's still all the more satisfying.
Yes.
Because Baby Yoda's standing up. The animatronic is so good with the eyes and the teeth, and my god. So he's standing up, and this thing is hovering in the air, seemingly being crushed a little bit. Because then all it takes after the big force moment is
jugular swipe. Yeah,
just a quick jugular swipe of the knife, and that surprisingly took it down. So I have to imagine that Baby Yoda also crushed its insides a bit. But anyway.
Dude, okay. Oh, can we just...
I love moments like this, because as the music builds, there's something so great about watching, especially a character like the Mandalorian, see a Force user for the first time.
God,
and you get that in the book Battlefront Twilight Company, a rebel soldier who sees Darth Vader for the first time, having lived in a galaxy 20 years post Revenge of the Sith that has not known Jedi for 2 decades. And so there's something so exciting about watching characters like the Mandalorian or rebel soldiers or whoever experience Force users for the first time and not know what the hell is going on. It's enormously satisfying, and it's enormously satisfying here because you can see as the Mandalorian now gets his parts back from the Jawas, and he delivers his egg back, and of course they just want the sap or the juice from it because it's rare and they like it. It's of course very Star Wars.
It's so
he's traveling back and he says to Akuel's like, I still don't know what happened back there, and he's like, neither do I.
It's so satisfying, dude, that the Jedi are shrouded in mystery again. When during the prequel era they completely fleshed out the Jedi to the point where they told us what the Force is, which right. I still don't agree with midichlorians. I'm not going to complain about it because that's literally 20 years old. I don't mind there being a science
to it. It does not ruin a thing for me.
It doesn't ruin it for me. I just like it. Like, oh, it's just a thing. You know what I mean? It just adds the mystery back to the Jedi, which I appreciate.
Yeah, so I love it too because you get a bit more of the Mandalorian's personality here, as he's so thankful and indebted to Kuel that he's like, please accept a portion of my reward. Please join up with me. He wants to make sure this guy is well compensated and that he pays him back. But Kuel the Ugnaught, he's lived life. He just wants to live his peaceful life out here in the middle of nowhere. He's thankful for the Mandalorian for having taken out that encampment of gangsters and criminals, and I love that, man. I love the honor between the two of them. It's so great, and
yeah, it really is.
I'm very much looking forward to whatever comes next for this series, man. And again, I hope the story will be a bit more tighter moving forward and there won't be another episode like this. But I also don't mind that it happened.
I don't either. Guys, I just want to add before we move on to the last topic of the episode, we will be reviewing The Mandalorian every week. So yeah. every new episode 100%. That comes out, we will be covering. Even if we do a movie review, we will always be covering this show because...
This is great, man. We're going to have a show until December 27th.
Right? We will always have something. No more like 35 to 55 minutes of me talking about tortillas and turtles. Because,
you know what's great about that too, Tate, is like even after December 27th, Clone Wars picks up like a month after that.
Yeah.
Like a month and a week after that. And so, yeah, man, we've got a show for sure. Especially with the YouTube apocalypse happening.
This is the true YouTube apocalypse. I mean,
yeah, this is. I'm glad that I imagine our viewership has really dropped off a little bit, and you have fewer people here for this. I appreciate anybody here who's still been sticking around with us, but this is where the conversation kind of
drops off.
It's going to drop off and take a bit of a nosedive down into some really unfortunate news.
Ross, this is extremely frustrating.
It's a lot to unpack. It's really been a hamper on me emotionally the last couple weeks. And Jang Bricks he just put out a really good video a couple days ago that really is all encompassing of it, that at least lays out the facts as concisely as possible. And even so, it took him 30 minutes to talk about every detail. So it's just kind of started off, Tate. I mean, last year when the first adpocalypse really kicked into gear, and YouTube channels like Philip DeFranco or those that cover sensitive topics or those who curse a lot, the first adpocalypse of needing to be advertiser friendly was one thing. That sucked, and I hated hearing it and watching it happen to some of my favorite YouTubers. But never in my wildest dreams did I think we would be next. Never in my wildest dreams did I think Lego YouTubers and toy YouTubers and kids YouTubers at large would take the brunt of the first serious change in YouTube. And I've been a Lego YouTuber for over a decade, and there are many YouTubers out there who have been toy YouTubers for over a decade, and those who have come up over the years and developed channels based around their families and child friendly themes, who have found something that they love to do and something sustainable out of it. And the kid friendly side of YouTube, I always thought was the most PG, clean, and clear cut, untouchable, advertiser friendly part of the platform. But now in September, it was revealed that apparently, as far back as I imagine the beginning of the platform, or whenever YouTube had the capability of doing it, all these years, despite having an age restriction on the platform, obviously there are kids who lie about their age. I know I did when I first started out. When I first started out on YouTube, I was in my early 50s, apparently. Like, according to the age set by my dad, because it was his account. But the point is, despite there being an age restriction to where you have to be 13 years old to, first of all, make an account on YouTube, YouTube has been gathering and collecting the same data that they do on adults, but for kids. 13 and younger, 12 and younger, knowingly. All these years, serving them personalized ads tailored to their behavior and what videos they click on the platform. And that's predatory. And now, the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, has stepped in and they sued YouTube and won and at the conclusion of this settlement against YouTube had to pay a few $100 million and come to a compromise with the FTC. And with all the big changes that have come to YouTube, never once have I seen YouTube so directly and knowingly throw content creators under the bus. Because in their compromise that they've made with the FTC, they have decided the way out is to completely demolish the kids side of YouTube. And they're not even talking about YouTube Kids anymore. This isn't even about that. This is about YouTube wrongfully collecting data and serving personalized ads tailored to kids 12 and younger, and doing it and profiting off of it and selling all of that data in mass for years. And the FTC forcing them to put a stop to it, forcing them to come to a compromise. And that compromise means the end of all kids-oriented channels. And make no mistake, this is an all-encompassing, very broad, sweeping change. You are going to see channels like me, all other big Lego YouTubers who have found sustainability in doing this, and other big toy channels, anything that is remotely geared towards a child, that a child could find, now has to be flat. And what does this mean? YouTube has implemented an entirely new process in which not just channels like me, but now every single YouTuber on the platform, every single person who uploads a video to YouTube will now have to check a box that specifically and clearly states if the video is geared towards kids or not. And that's just on the video level. And now those of us who this is affecting have the option to go through our video managers and address them accordingly and make that switch on each individual video. And I've got a backlog of at least 800 videos. Or at the channel level, they would prefer if you just mark your entire channel as yes, geared towards kids, or no, not geared towards kids. And here's the problem with that. And this isn't even getting into the real severity of it. But as far as sustainability goes, channels that are set to made for kids, and this gets really scary, guys. Channels set to made for kids will lose personalized ads. And again, that's what all this is about. Personalized ads. The most profitable ads. So personalized ads are the most profitable ads and bring in the most money and the most revenue for us YouTubers because they are the ads that advertisers pay YouTube for to then put on our videos to specifically target groups of people and audiences that would be interested in their products. And so you have two different types of ads shown on YouTube. The ones that are tailored to you, personalized ads, therefore the most profitable ones, and then more generalized ads that are not. And so we'll lose all personalized ads. So that's a pretty sizable decrease in revenue. YouTube is barely sustainable to live off of to begin with. I know I certainly haven't found sustainability even to this day. Comment sections will be removed. Now, I don't know if that just means they won't be publicly displayed or just flat out deleted and discarded entirely from your channel. And then, this goes unspoken, but is more than likely going to happen, your content will be suppressed in the algorithm. Meaning it's more than likely, and don't quote me on this, I don't know for sure, you're going to have a very tough time finding toy channels and kids-oriented channels, Lego channels, moving forward. We're not going to be showing up in recommended feeds as much, and it's going to be a lot harder to grow an audience. Even harder than it already is. And those of you who are just starting out on YouTube in the last several years will know the slow burn that it is. But now if you want to become a Lego YouTuber or a toy YouTuber or a superheroes YouTuber or a whatever YouTuber, a Minecraft YouTuber, a Fortnite YouTuber, anything even remotely kids oriented, you might as well not bother.
And Ross, I'd like to add.
Yeah.
I'd like to add. It's not like Ross could start cussing in his videos and then all of a sudden they'd be adult content.
Right. That was one of the first things that people started tossing around. Okay. Just start cursing, right? Start using a heavier vocabulary. Pull up a thesaurus and listen. Anyone who thinks that that is a solution are fooling themselves. Because at the end of the day, there are no gray areas here.
No.
If you are a Lego YouTuber,
you're a kid's channel.
You're going to mark you. They're going to mark you. You are not COPPA compliant if you do not mark your channel this way and completely limit yourself, essentially killing your channel. And moreover, you've got the removal effective January 1st, 2020. The community tab will be removed from your channel. Stories will be removed from your channel. The notification bell will no longer be an option for your subscribers, so the notification bell will be gone. The watch later feature will not work on your channel. People will not be able to save your videos into playlists. And the new channel memberships, the sponsorships will be gone as well. Now that's just for the channels that are made for kids. And again, now all YouTubers in the audience portion of your video manager are presented with this choice. I think it's in the video manager or it might be on the channel settings on the actual channel page. But the point is, if you don't mark your channel as made for kids, this is where it gets really scary. Because this is the first time where YouTube has directly shifted liability away from themselves and onto the individual content creators. So YouTube is no longer liable. We are. They're not offering any advice. This is the first time, and you can watch the video yourself, where the YouTube representative is telling us to consult and speak with lawyers to continue making videos. Guys, we're being run off the platform. That is what is happening here. That is the reality of the situation. 2019 could very well, and most certainly appears to be, the final year for sustainable Lego channels, family-oriented channels, kids channels, Minecraft channels, superheroes channels, action figure channels. Anything you think might be geared even remotely towards a kid is complicit in this now. We'll be flat. Will no longer be compliant. This channel that we're on now, because we've got Lego minifigures in the thumbnails and talk about this channel will fall into the category. And we're just throwing up slides and talking.
I mean, man.
And the penalty, now that YouTube, in their compromise with the FTC, has thrown us under the bus and shifted over the legal liability to us to be responsible and properly set our channels to made for kids, voluntarily killing our channels. And my dad literally just turned on a leaf blower outside my window. If you do not voluntarily kill your channel with this made for kids setting, and you do not specifically go through and mark every video made for kids, if you decide to go that route and mark the videos individually, if you don't want to just flat out mark your whole channel as made for kids, YouTube will always be watching. The FTC will always be watching. If you do it enough and YouTube's algorithms catch you, they will shut your channel down. That is the reality we are facing. We are being faced with the option of constantly being on our toes, looking over our shoulders, trying to invent gray areas in this where there really are none, or just killing our channels voluntarily. And if that isn't enough to scare you, the FTC will now legally be able to fine you however much they damn so please. And now I have to mute my mic because my dad is literally turning on a leaf blower. And Tate, I'll let you give your 2 thoughts on this while I go and try to get him to stop.
Yeah. I'm looking at this as somebody who's not a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber in the sense of I have this channel, right? But this is Ross's situation. But Ross is a good friend of mine, right? He tells me the way it works. He tells me the process. He tells me all of these things. I'm reading about this Copa stuff. The thing that's so gnarly to me, the thing that makes this so impossible, you're not allowed to make kids content. You're not allowed to make content on superheroes, even though all superhero movies are PG-13. You're not allowed to make You're not allowed to make videos on Lego, even though half the sets are ages, like 12 and up. You're not allowed to do anything. But then as soon as you move into adult content, you start cursing in your videos. You start telling explicit stories. You start acting explicit in the videos. You get demonetized. So there's this gray area where people are perhaps playing teen or mature rated video games, and that's about all they can do.
No, if it's even remotely, this is an all-encompassing, blanketing, removal.
Dude, that's crazy.
Of all content geared towards kids.
So Ross, the thing that's so stupid to me is the generalization. Like Marvel movies are all PG-13, yet they're being included in this children's. Children's campaign, this children protection campaign. Honestly, dude, this is something we talked about the other day. I think it's time to move to Mixer. I mean, they have all of this huge influx of viewers now with Ninja and Shroud on the platform. It's all based upon the audience's engagement. I mean, even if just the podcast, dude, because we talk about very much what we talk about on this channel specifically, and what most people on YouTube talk about, transcends age a little bit, right? Kids can enjoy conversations about Star Wars, but so can 60-year-olds.
Right, and
Right?
that's the thing. Is like I've never made my videos just for kids. I mean, the first half of my YouTube career, I was swearing up a storm and I never cared. Of course, then after the first YouTube adpocalypse happened, I stopped, just like everyone else, with the demonetization, the initial adpocalypse. But this is new. This is different. This is more serious. You are now taking legal risks. You are now involved when you do kids content on YouTube of any kind. There are no gray areas here. This is all encompassing.
God, it's
You are
just
taking on liability risks legally to be fined by the FTC. YouTube is throwing us under the bus. And guys, the reason this is so scary, for those of you on the outside, we're all adults here. I'm talking me, I'm talking Tate, I'm talking the YouTubers that are doing this for a living. When suddenly your advertising revenue is your minimal advertising revenue is dropped even further, and I'm guessing this is probably going to be at least a 40 to 60% hit. That's just my guess. Suddenly, reality has come around for you. You now have to make lifestyle changes, changes in how you live day to day. Do you get a job? Do you start selling a product? Do you reinvent? We are all being forced to reinvent ourselves. So you're going to see a surge in content creators moving to Patreon. I know I will certainly be one of them. Patreon is going to quickly become a huge part of MGF Customs just to warrant the continuation of the brand. And next year, I've already started to sort of forecast the directions that I plan to move in, to reinvent. And the whole point of this and why it's so scary is not that, oh man, now we're going to have to all go to college and get jobs. The point is, guys, a lot of people and a lot of us, a lot of YouTubers love doing this. We found work that we love. We found passion that we love, and thousands of people that love to be there for it, and a community that has been built. For me, over the last 11 years of my life, and I'm only 21, this has been my life. And I don't want to be tossed into some company, thrown in a cubicle somewhere to just pay the bills. But the goal, and Tate and I talk about this all the time, the goal is to find meaningful work, is to find something you love and to make it sustainable, as sustainable as you can. And for a lot of people like Jang Bricks had already gotten there. I can't speak for anybody else, but when you get around those numbers, it certainly becomes an opportunity that can work, but not if your channel's gone. Because guys, that's what we're being presented with here. Because on November 12th, I didn't even include this, the algorithm rolled out and started flagging random videos
Jesus.
that were made for kids. My first Endgame showcase got hit, and more will get hit. It's really bad because it's the algorithm that they've implemented to combat us and to drive us from the platform is only going to get smarter, more efficient. It's machine learning. Eventually, 2/3 of our videos, I'm sure, will be flagged. We are Lego channels. We are toy channels. At the end of the day, we are kids channels. And this could be the end. Because all it could take is if I don't, and all the other thousands of kids-oriented channels don't flick the switch before January 1st and effectively voluntarily kill our channels, getting rid of the notification bells, personalized ads, our community tab, our all of it, effectively once again killing our channels, prohibiting any opportunity to garner any more of an audience. We either do that or we try to go the individual video route and just try to keep flagging. First of all, flag at the entire backlog of videos. But then going forward, if we don't flag enough videos or we slip up one too many times, YouTube will just delete our whole channel. And maybe they won't turn it back on this time.
Right.
Who knows? We're entering uncharted territory. YouTube has gone from this incredible place of creativity, broadcast yourself, to this cold corporate machine where now you go on YouTube, and while some people find it helpful, the first thing you see in your video manager are your numbers, how you're doing, the either green up arrows or the down red arrows, just gauging. It's no longer about the creativity. It's no longer about the fun, and it's about the numbers. And YouTube has become this corporate monster now, and it makes me really sad because never in a million years did I think Lego YouTubers and all other kid-friendly YouTubers would be driven from the platform. Because now people have to find sustainability to some extent somewhere to pay the bills. And if they were doing that for YouTube, they now have to designate that time elsewhere. And so if they aren't driven from the platform completely, all your favorite YouTubers, you're going to see a huge drop off. And likely with me as well. And I've already had a really crazy year in 2019. Things have already I haven't had the greatest year already, and obviously that's reflected in my work and a much smaller amount of content going out in 2019 in comparison to 2018. But I don't know what the future looks like. And no Lego YouTuber or kid-friendly YouTuber out there knows what the future looks like. And if we're not safe, if we're being driven from the platform, no one is safe. Because who knows? Maybe makeup artists and the cosmetics are next. We don't know who's next. Who knows if YouTube one day wants a completely copyright free platform? And then suddenly, movie YouTubers are next. Because we went from being the most clean cut, PG, advertiser friendly YouTubers to now being driven from the platform. And this is the reality of YouTube now. And now this is forcing us, all of us, to face reality for real. And seriously, completely overhaul our lifestyles. And it's scary. Because I know I wasn't ready for this. I'm scared as hell. I know others are not ready for this. They are also scared as hell. And really, the ultimate takeaway from this is that you really do have to go all in on yourself. Learn new things, acquire new skills, make yourself valuable. Because you never know when you could be next. Whether it be from a massive media corporate conglomerate that you've invested 11 years of your life into, or another job somewhere else. I know these are heavy, hard-hitting discussions to have, especially because those of you here with us are more so on the younger side. But this is the reality of the situation that I'm facing, that every other adult Lego YouTuber and kid-friendly YouTuber is facing. This is the future. It's cold. It's dark. It's scary. It's new. It's uncharted. But I'm hoping that we'll all make it through on the other side. Because now we all have to do whatever it is we need to do to create some kind of future. Because clearly it's not going to be on YouTube. And that's scary. So to begin, I'm not quite ready to start announcing some of the things I'll be attempting to do in 2020. First of all, I'm going to have to see if my channel even survives. But I'm certainly going to be backing up the earlier years of my channel because I actually don't have 2008 through 2012 on a drive. So it's if it does end like this, I just never could have imagined that this is how we were all going to go one day from the platform. Just a sudden implementation of a new algorithm that digitally hunts us down, right? And I haven't seen or read through all the documentation available by the FTC, but I have seen some clips, namely the ones in Jang's video, where these guys at the FTC, man, I mean, one of them, this guy just straight up says, it's fish in a barrel, and the content creators are the fish. And we have the means of combing through all 23 million channels. That's what he said. And things are going to change forever moving into this new decade. And I think this has instilled a whole new fear in me and in a lot of people that we're going to have to wrangle with day to day as we try to find sustainability and a future elsewhere in life, because YouTube doesn't want us here anymore. This is a conversation and something that I just kind of thought would happen in maybe another 5 or 10 years, whenever YouTube started to go, but not this soon. Because the last 11 years of my life growing up on this platform and interacting with so many thousands of incredible people, amazing people, so many kids and teens and people of my age now who have been inspired to create, to make something based on something they love. People who have come up to me at the brick fairs and told me that in person, those who message me on Instagram on a regular basis. It is the most incredible gift. The last 11 years interacting and touching the lives of this many people was a privilege, and has been a privilege that I never thought I was capable of from a very young age. So, of course, it's not the end, right? But it could be the end for YouTube and all of our time on YouTube. Should we slip up? Should we not flag enough of our own videos to kill our own channels, to kill the revenue on our channels that makes it sustainable, so that we don't have to go out and pursue other careers? I'm going to be working with some people, going to be learning new skills, trying new strategies, looking for a way out that doesn't involve a corporate job somewhere, working your life away. Not that anyone is above said lifestyle, but I think everybody listening probably understands what I'm saying, or at least I would hope so. And again, I suggest you watch Shang Brick's video. He lays it all out pretty well in 30 minutes. Really good dude. I hope he makes it through this all right. I hope everybody makes it through this all right, because we're all going to have to change now. And it's scary.
Ross, the most important thing moving forward, I think, is that where your content is, the people will follow. And I hope that goes for the other YouTubers as well.
And I don't really know what else to say. I feel really bad for all of those who have been trying to get somewhere with this in the Lego community. Those who joined in recent years thinking they would one day also find a future on the platform. That those people can't have a similar experience. through YouTube that I was gifted and so many people have been gifted across the decade. Because when this first came out, I just figured, okay, even if they completely get rid of monetization, I'll still be here making video. Find the monetization somewhere else through another means. Can't make YouTube videos if you don't have a channel. And I just appreciate everybody, you know? I really appreciate everybody here in the chat supporting all of us LEGO YouTubers and all of the other fans out there supporting of their favorite YouTubers, because it really is what keeps us going. There's no other reason for us to be here and to hang on to this experience for dear life. It's all you guys. It's all good creative people supporting other good creative people. And that's what has made the last 11 years of my life just so special. And I really hope we'll be able to continue in at least some similar fashion. And if we can't interact on YouTube anymore, hopefully I'll be over on Instagram for as long as possible before who knows what Instagram will one day do to us, you know? Who knows if Patreon will one day do the same. You never know. And there is truth to that statement. You think, oh man, well, I'm not really into LEGO and I'm going to go do a music channel. You never know. We all thought we were the most PG, crystal clean, advertiser friendly content creators alive. And we're being driven from the platform because YouTube messed up, because they have been collecting data on kids and are now throwing us under the bus. So I think I'll be honest with you, I can articulate a lot of this better. I will do a video like others have on my channel to address it. Hopefully I'll be able to articulate it better there, because it could wind up being one of my last videos. Who knows? After January 1st, man, it's like walking out onto a lake of thin ice. You never know when you're going to fall in. So thank you guys for hanging out with us for the last couple hours. Despite this final dialogue of the show being quite a downer. Really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Dark Brick, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Tait, of course. My best buddy here. And all of you guys who show up to hang out with us while we talk about the things we love. Hopefully we'll still be able to continue doing this into the foreseeable future, and hopefully we'll all find our own ways through this. Because now it's the only option. Yeah. And yeah, so of course I'll always be on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. That's going to be the future first and foremost if YouTube drives us from the platform. And And there are some other ideas that I have in mind that I think could take my channel at least in new directions, or at least just my brand. I'm hesitant to call MGF Customs even a channel anymore because I don't know for how much longer I'll be able to say that. We'll take my brand as Michael MGF into a more sustainable direction. It just might involve a bit more work, and yeah. Anyway,
guys, we will see you next time.
Hopefully on a bit of a lighter note.
Yes.
We'll be back next week for maybe a final discussion on Jedi Fallen Order. Spoilers, maybe. And The Mandalorian Episode 3.
Yep. Alright, guys, thanks so much. And remember, we live in a society. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time.